John.
All right, with me now is Democratic Congressman Tom Suozzi from Long Island in the state of New York. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. I was reading in Punchbowl this morning that you were taking the lead of the Border Security Task Force, even though Congressman Henry Cuellar from Texas, who has been indicted, is still technically the co-chair. Punchbowl reports there are a lot of Democrats, part of this caucus, who are uncomfortable and say it's awkward that Cuellar is still the co-chair. How do you feel about that?
I mean, the bottom line is I'm taking the lead, and I'm setting up a meeting for early June, and we've got to get moving on this. The Democrats have to come out with a unified message that says very clearly we're for strong border security, we need to fix the broken asylum system, and we need to treat people humanely. So we can do all those things. We can be tough and we can be fair. And we need to bring all the different factions of the Democratic Party together with a strong message, because the people care about the border. Right now it's been a little quieter. But we're going to see a surge again as soon as the Mexico elections are over. We're going to see people at the border again, and people are going to start worrying what's going on. We need to bring order at the border.
How similar is that message from you to the message that you are hearing from President Biden?
I think the president gets it. The president realizes he's got to be tougher and he's got to be humane. He's got to do both things. I did a bipartisan letter a week ago saying, listen, Mr. President, if we can't get the Senate to pass the bill that everybody agreed would work. It was endorsed by the Wall Street Journal. It was endorsed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It was endorsed by the union president of the Border Patrol that was a big Trump supporter. And the Senate killed it because Donald Trump came in and said, you know, I don't want to give Biden a victory. I want to run on the chaos. If we can't get a bill passed on a bipartisan basis, then the president has to take executive action. And that executive action should be to try and secure the border, number one, and number two, treat people like human beings.
Just back to my first question very quickly here. You are in a seat now that was vacant because George Santos was booted from Congress after getting indicted. I'm asking you about Henry Cuellar, who was also indicted, but still part of this effort you're in. You don't think that's a conflict at all?
I mean, Henry Cuellar has been involved in border issues for a long time. He was originally the guy who came up with the idea of a Democratic Border Security Task Force. And when the indictment came out, he came to me and he said, listen, I need you to take the lead on this. So I'm taking the lead going forward. You know, George Santos, I don't know if you still want to talk about George Santos. I really don't.
All right, I'll take that for an answer right there. Sometimes, in some places, if you gaze across Long Island Sound from your district, in certain places, you can see the Bronx, where President Trump will be today. What does he need to know in your mind about New York voters, the people who will be near his rally later?
I think it's going to be surprising. It's going to depend on the weather and how things turn out. He'll have supporters that'll be there because people that live in the Bronx, African Americans, Latinos, Italians who live there are concerned about the border like everybody else. They're concerned about cost of living. The same issues that we hear talked about in the top of the news are concerns of the people who live in the Bronx. And the people in the Bronx want us to address these very, very real issues. But I don't think that people in the Bronx should fall for what Donald Trump is selling. If there's one thing's clear, Joe Biden cares about people. Donald Trump cares about himself. And that's been clear throughout his entire time in the public eye. So we can't be fooled by what Donald Trump is trying to sell. He didn't address the border when he was in office. Neither did the presidents before him as well. And we finally had a bipartisan deal to address the border, and Trump sabotaged the whole thing by saying, I don't want to give Biden a victory. Well, as Mitt Romney said, that's appalling that he would be so political on such an important issue. Everybody says, it's a problem, it's a problem, it's a problem. And then they say, oh, no, we're not going to do it now. We want to get through this politics first.
Can I ask you, the New York Times is reporting that Justice Samuel Alito, over his beach house in New Jersey, let's keep this in the tri-state here, had a flag, an appeal to heaven flag. Yes, George Washington flew this flag. It was a Revolutionary Era flag. But lately, it has come to be associated with, it was flying on January 6th in some places. There are some people on the far right who take it. Whether or not it's a January 6th flag or not, what are your feelings about a Supreme Court justice flying politically motivated flags from his house? Maybe he didn't do it, maybe it's his wife, but should these flags be over his house at all?
It's very upsetting. I mean, I want to get more facts like everybody else does. I'm an attorney. I went to law school in the 1980s. Our big concern when we were talking about law school in those days is we don't want to see the politicization of the judiciary and especially of the Supreme Court. And I'm getting very worried about the politicization of the Supreme Court. People need to trust the rule of law. They need to feel that the judges are going to be acting in a fair way and just trying to follow precedent and follow the law. When we saw the overturning of Roe versus Wade, that didn't make sense because it was an undoing of precedent of 50 years. And people are more and more concerned that the Supreme Court is acting politically, and that's bad for America. That's bad for all of us. We don't want our Supreme Court judges acting politically. We want them to follow the law, and we want everybody to be treated equally under the eyes of the law. That's something we should all be worried about, and we as a country have to work together. And the idea of the judge flying a flag that's politically motivated over his house, or as he did, with the upside-down flag at his home here in Washington, is very, very disconcerting, and we should all be watching this very, very carefully.
Congressman Tom Suozzi, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.